The wind came down from the mountains slow and bitter, rattling the porch boards like bones in a box. The sky was pale pewter, the kind that steals color from the earth, and everything on the Marston ranch looked washed and worn, except her. Lila Marston stood straight in a lavender morning dress, the hem stiff with frost, her hair pinned with the kind of care one takes when they expect to be watched. She didn't shiver, though the cold pressed hard. She'd learned long ago that shivering was a kind of answer, and she owed no man any more of those. The cowboy at her gate removed his hat with both hands, like he feared one wouldn't be enough. Colt Ryman. The name rose from some rusted drawer in her memory, the way old tools do when winter breaks the barn door. He looked thinner than she remembered, but not softer. A coat patched at the elbows hung from his frame, and his boots left no crunch in the frost, too worn, too silent. "You're late," she said. He looked up, surprised, like he hadn't expected a welcome, let alone words. "I didn't set a time," he said. "I didn't say I was waiting." She turned her back on the wind and him both, retreating up the 2 porch steps that led nowhere anymore. Behind her, his boots crunched slow across the gravel. She didn't invite him, and he didn't presume. He stopped just short of the top step, his head level with the bottom rail. "I heard about your husband," Colt said, voice hoarse from wind or guilt. "Fire took the barn too?" She said nothing, and that was answer enough. He nodded once, eyes on the porch boards between them. "Didn't come to pry," he added. "Came to work." She let the silence stretch. It was a kind of test. The weak filled it with words. He did not. Finally, she folded her arms. "I've got men. Stronger than you. I'll sleep in the barn if I have to. I'll even," he faltered, jaw twitching. "I'll do anything." "That so?" He nodded. "Funny. That's what you said before." Colt looked down at his boots, scuffed raw at the toes. "That was a long time ago. You were drunk. I was lost. You left. I was told to." Her gaze sharpened. "I never told you." "No," he said softly. "But the town did. And you didn't stop them." That stung more than she let show. She wrapped her arms tighter. The wind shifted, and she caught the faintest smell of old leather and pine smoke off him. A smell that reminded her of years before, when her husband still smiled and fences still held. "I didn't come to beg," Colt said. "But I'll take whatever work you got. Quiet work. Out of sight. And why would I trust you again?" He looked at her then. Not defiant. Just tired. "Because I came back." She could have said more. Could have pointed to every rotten post he hadn't fixed, every chore he'd left half done, every broken promise he'd ridden away from. But something about the way his shoulders stooped, not from cold, but from carrying years he couldn't drop, stopped her. "You still drink?" He shook his head. "Not since the fall." "Your fall or mine?" "Both, I reckon." Behind him, the ranch stretched in quiet disrepair. Fences sagged, hinges squeaked. The creek had frozen over in places that once flowed strong. Her late husband, God rest his chaotic soul, had run the place into the ground before dying with a bottle in his fist and a barn half burned around him. Colt saw her looking. "I can fix the south fence. Start there." She didn't nod, but she didn't stop him when he turned toward the shed. She watched him pass the lilac bush, dead now from frost and fire, and for a brief second she remembered something stupid, how he once tucked one of its blossoms behind her ear during spring roundup. He'd said nothing then either. Just smiled. She hadn't known he'd liked her. Or maybe she had and just couldn't afford to know. The screen door creaked behind her as she stepped inside. She didn't look out the window again for nearly an hour, but when she did, he was still out there, pulling nails from old planks with raw fingers, sleeves rolled back despite the cold. The first week passed like molasses over a cracked plate. Slow, sticky, and half useless. But the second week, the trough stayed full, the hinges oiled. She found her tools returned to their shelves, firewood stacked even though she hadn't asked. Once, she spotted a bundle of flowers, dried wild yarrow, tied to the porch post with a string of twine. She didn't mention it. The town whispered. They always did. Said she was too pretty to stay alone. Said she'd gone soft now that her name was on a deed and her ring finger bare. They said worse things about Colt, old rumors polished like coins passed hand to hand. Widow Marston keeps strange company, Miss Agatha Crowley hissed to her friend near the mercantile. First a drunk, now a drifter. Lila heard it. Everyone did. Colt just loaded her sack of feed onto the mule and said nothing. His silence was starting to feel like shelter. She began eating her dinners with the door unlocked. Not an invitation, not quite. Just not a refusal. He never entered unless she called. Which, once, she did. A blizzard hit early, snow snapping against the windows like knuckles. She found him under the lean-to, hammering at something with shaking hands. "Colt," she said, standing barefoot in the open doorway. "Come in. Before you freeze to death." He stepped inside like it hurt to do it. Snow melted from his shoulders in thick drops. She handed him stew in a chipped bowl and sat across the table without a word. For 5 minutes they ate in silence, save the hiss of the fire and the clink of spoon to ceramic. "I buried the whiskey," he said. She looked up. "Found it behind the shed. The one he used to, well, figured it wasn't helping your memories." Her hands trembled. Not from rage. From being seen. "You had no right." "I know. But thank you." They sat like that for a while. Her staring at a knot in the table. Him staring at nothing. "I meant what I said," he murmured. "I'll stay in the barn forever if that's what it takes." "And the other part?" He blinked. "What part?" "You said you'd get me pregnant again." Color drained from his face. I didn't mean it like." "How did you mean it?" "I meant," he swallowed. "I meant I'd do whatever made them stop talking. So you'd feel safe. Even if I had to give you something they couldn't mock. A child. A name." Her breath caught. "I don't need your name," she said. "No," he agreed. "But maybe you need something that stays." She stood then, heart tight in her chest. Not from anger. From a feeling she hadn't felt in years, hope wrapped in fear. "You really think a child stops gossip?" she asked. "No," he said, voice barely above the fire. "But it stops loneliness." She didn't speak again. Just pointed to the blanket folded on the rocker. "You'll sleep by the fire tonight. Just tonight." He nodded, slowly. "Thank you." She didn't watch him settle down. Just climbed the stairs, fingers trailing the rail like it might catch her if she stumbled. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, it was quiet save the ticking of the clock and the soft pull of his breath. But when she reached the landing and turned, she saw it, something tucked into his palm as he slept, curled on the floor like a man remembering what it meant to feel safe. It was the dried lilac blossom, the one she thought had died with spring, and somehow it had survived the frost. Which city are you watching our video from? Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.